My family moved from Ottawa to Riverside when I was 4 years old. Next door, the Waddingtons had a son 3 years old who watched the movers, but I was not there that day. Our parents became good friends, and within a few months, Ron and I were playmates, going back and forth between our houses. In school, we were not like other boys playing the ball or tag. We would spend recess talking about the boys we thought were interesting and figuring out where they lived. Although we never figured out what we would do if they were playing outside, we rode by their homes on our bikes. After school, we played school, taking turns as the teacher. We had a school desk in Ron's basement that we used as a prop. We tended to exclude others from our twosome. In 1952, Ron's parents bought a cottage in Palm Beach. My father was the lawyer for closing the deal, so we traveled as two families to Hamilton to sign the papers, and then up to Palm Beach for the long weekend. After that, I would often spend several weeks at a time at the cottage, and some years my parents rented places near the Waddington cottage, so we had lots of time together. Once we reached high school, both families moved, his to Trenton and mine to Amherstburg, but we stayed in touch and both attended university together. However, after I left for England and Edmonton for further studies, I lost complete touch with Ron. I tried to get in touch once I moved back to Ontario, but his parents had died, and so my way to find him was limited. In 1995, a friend of my parents was visiting Toronto where he met Ron. Upon finding out where Ron had grown up, he asked Ron if he knew me and let me know Ron's phone number. Within minutes, I was on the phone talking to Ron. In that conversation, although I was not yet out to my wife, I came out to Ron, and he came out to me as both gay and HIV positive. The following year, I had a meeting at Queen's Park and made time to have coffee with Ron and his partner, and it was like no time had passed at all. After my marriage had come apart, I moved to Toronto in 2000, and Ron included me and my partner in gatherings of his teacher friends. We had both become educators. The summer of 2001 was a rough one for both of us. Ron's partner died in June, and 6 weeks later my partner died. We were there for each other. In fact, Ron took Bob and I to dinner the night before Bob went into the hospital. Despite it being a rough time, we escaped twice that summer for a week at the same cottage in Palm Beach. That fall, Ron would come to my place every afternoon, as we both loved to swim, and I had a pool. Even though the year had been a rough one, Ron, whose family had not been religious, asked me to take him to MCC weekly. Interestingly, I had taken him to Sunday school when we were young. We seemed as close as we had been 40 years before. I was invited to work a university residency in Phoenix the week between Christmas and New Year's, and as they were providing me with a condo, I invited Ron along. He loved that trip. He would sit in the hot tub while I worked, come to where I was working for lunch and dinner, and we played board games in the evening. Unfortunately, Ron's meds had the side effect of making him bipolar. Right after we returned from that trip, Ron became depressed, and by February it was bad enough that his sister had him admitted to hospital. I am sure he had stopped taking his meds, as when he went to hospital he had AIDS-related cancer. When he returned home, his sister and I would take him food, or take him out for some food. But eventually she found Casey House was being used to help in recovery, so he was admitted there to get him eating again. He improved greatly, but just before Christmas, I took a friend with me to visit, and Ron had regressed, and I sensed for some reason that he was going to die. I asked my friend to leave with me, and I stood outside in the bitter cold, crying on my friend's shoulder. I continued to visit, and the night before he died in late January, he seemed in a coma. His sister and I conversed, and as I was leaving, I kissed Ron for the first time ever, and he opened his eyes and smiled. Some friendships are made to be forever. Sometimes I wonder if in our youth we had known about gay, would we have experienced love?